next week we will evaluate our answers to help determine what our spiritual gift is. Now, I'm inclined to believe that if you have two gifts, and it is possible, I don't know if anybody has three gifts. I don't know. I don't think I've got three, but let's suppose a person has two. My guess is, and I have this is just a theory, no scriptural warrant for it, but just sometimes you observe things in life, if you understand what I'm saying, is that one of them is dominant and the other one is less so, but nevertheless there. So we'll see about that. All right, number 68. I have felt an unusual presence of God and personal confidence when important decisions needed to be made. I'm not exactly sure on this one whether he's talking about discernment or leadership. We will find out as we evaluate this. Number 69, I have the ability to discover new truths for myself through reading or observing situations firsthand. I don't know, that one's a little wobbly too. I'm not certain whether he's talking here about discernments. I guess that discernment. I guess that must be the reading there is being able to see the situation and see things that other people don't see. Discernment is a very important thing because Christians can be incredibly obtuse. That's a nice way of saying dumb. Let me give you an example of this. Over the years, and you know, I've been at this a long time, so the years have piled up, as one might expect. Remember, there was a fellow named Darrell Strawberry. There was Larry Flint. There was Jane Fonda. Now, the existence of those people is or was, I don't know, did Larry Flint die? I'm not sure. Their existence is undeniable, but all three of them were supposed to have gotten saved. Now, when that happens, we should rejoice, but we also should be careful that we wait and see. What does Jesus say? By their fruit ye shall know them. If we are a believer, we produce fruit. If you're an unbeliever, you produce fruit. And the fruit will reveal what kind of tree you are. There are people who can recognize leaves. In other words, I know what a peach tree looks like, even without any peaches on it, because I grew up down in the South. On the bumpers on their license plate, it says that Georgia's the peach state. Well, I don't know, that may have been so at one time. It's not so anymore. First of all, California grows more of everything than just about any state. So, they're you name it, they're that state just about. But for a while, I lived next to Spartanburg County. Spartanburg County grows more peaches than the entire state of Georgia. Well, I lived in Cherokee County, and Cherokee County grew more peaches than Spartanburg County. Now, I don't think they do anymore. Well, the last time I was there, the Cangiano orchards were gone. I don't know what happened. But fruit tells you something. Let me show you what happens. First of all, there are people who are hungry. They're yearning for some big name person to be saved. Now, folks, God is no respecter of persons. Everybody's got to be saved. And if they're not saved, they don't have eternal life. During the early Methodist movement, there was a woman, I think it was Lady Sutherland, and she said that she was saved on the basis of an M, the letter M. It says, not many mighty are called, not any mighty are called. And so they just, these starstruck Christians that want somebody important, somebody or something, some big person, important persons, a movie star or whatever. Larry Flint was not a movie star, he was a porn star, and he didn't appear in the films, he made them. And no, he didn't make the films, he had his filthy magazine called Hustler. But he was supposed to have gotten saved, and then there was Jane Fonda, and there was Darryl Strawberry. But you know what? People jumped on these things. There's a little thing Jesus said, speaking of wolves in sheep's clothing. Now, these people were not wolves, but there's a principle here. And it works like this. You say, how could a sheep mistake a wolf just because it's wearing a sheepskin? Because that's what sheep do. Let me illustrate this for you. Let's suppose, and I've done this before, but we'll do it again. Let's suppose that we have two mother sheep, and they each have a lamb. Okay? And what happens is one lamb dies and one mother dies. So they're going to lose that lamb. And the lamb is important to the shepherd because that lamb is worth something. And there may be a measure of compassion as well. So he brings the little lamb to the mother. The mother will not nurse the lamb. And the lamb will not nurse the mother. Doesn't work. So what does the shepherd do? Well, he skins the dead mother and he drapes the skin over the mother that's alive. And he skins the dead lamb and he drapes that skin over the lamb that is alive. And so the mother smells her lamb and the little lamb smells his mother. And it works. Okay?
Interesting.
We need to be careful, folks. We need to be careful. A wolf in sheep's clothing is still a wolf. And we need to be careful what we smell. Sometimes you need to smell a rat, because that's what you've got. And sometimes we need to be discerning. Now, everybody can be discerning. But some people have a special gift for it. They can just, they can evaluate a situation or whatever's going on, and in a moment, they know exactly what the situation is. Number 70. I have urged others to seek biblical solutions to their affliction or suffering. I'm not so certain I like the word solution. I think maybe the word answer might be better, because God's answer is not always a solution. You see, the world thinks, there's a part of the Christian world that thinks that God doesn't want his people to ever be sick, which is pretty foolish, because we live in this world too. And what does the Bible say? Yet man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly upward. Sickness is trouble. It's a kind of trouble. and those who are sick are troubled. And why should we be different? We are to live before the world a life that is above the circumstances. But if we don't have negative circumstances, how do we do that? You know, if it ever got out, if it were true and it ever got out that Christians never have troubles, they always have enough money, they never get sick and all that stuff, people would be flocking to us. And why would they be flocking to us? Would they be coming to Christianity because of the right reasons, or would they be coming for their own? What did Jesus say? In John 6, he said, and this is, he says, you come to me not because of the miracles I do, but because of the food that I give you. Well, miracles are a whole lot better than some of the reasons. And he says that you don't even come to me because I do miracles. You come to me because I give you grub, food. There are always people looking for something that's better than what they've got, and I can understand that. That's a pretty human thing to do. You're cold, you want to get warm. You're thirsty, you want to drink. You're hungry, you want food. You're uncomfortable, you want to do something, whatever it might be. But the thing is that, yes, Paul said, I've left Epaphroditus sick. And why did Paul heal him? Because it wasn't God's will. You see, all the miracles that have ever been done because it's God's will, except for the satanic ones. What did Jesus say in Matthew 24? There shall be false Christ, and that they will do wonders insomuch that if it were possible, they should deceive the very elect. All right? Satan has power. No question about it. Satan is a supernatural being. And so we are to evaluate. And some people are really good at this. They know that they feel, they sense that something is wrong. But I think the biblical answer is what? Well, first of all, what's God trying to do in our lives? The Bible speaks of the trying of your faith. The trying of your faith. What is a trial? A trial is a very uncomfortable, difficult situation. And we've used the analogy that a trial is like metallurgy. In the morning message, I'm gonna read a quotation from a woman named Isabel Kuhn. And she was she and her husband John were missionaries to China, and her husband had gone before her because they weren't yet married, and the China Inland Mission had a policy she had to be over there for a year before they were allowed to get married. So she was going over by herself, and on the boat. This was before people flew in planes across the Pacific very much. In fact, maybe they hadn't done it at all yet. In any case, so she's on this ship and she's going over there. And on the ship there is a missionary, female missionary, returning to China. Now I don't know the exact word that she used, so I'm going to use mine. But she said, when you go to the mission field, it will bring out the crud. Now, what is crud? That's bad stuff, all right? Trials, difficulties, pain. What happens? The wretchedness that is the human spirit rises to the top. It becomes apparent. Every one of us have said, at least to ourselves, well, I wouldn't have been such a nerd if I hadn't been in pain or whatever. Now, is that an excuse? No, it's not. What is the purpose of a trial? One of the things is it brings to the surface what ought not be in us. It makes us aware of it. And God's purpose is that we would deal with it. It's when metal is molten, when ore is molten, in other words, liquid, what happens? Well, the metals sink to the bottom. Why? Because they're heavier than the rock, the quartz, the whatever it's of the molten, what the metal is found in. And when it sinks down to the bottom, the metal sinks to the bottom because it's heavier. That which you don't want comes to the top. Now, folks, I have here my wedding band. You know what? There aren't any little chunks of rock in it. There's no sand. There's nothing here but, well, it's 14 karat because Americans, we don't have 26 karat gold. If you want 22, it's either 22, I think it's 22 karat, you can get that in Italy, okay? Problem being is you'll wind up with a bent wedding ring, all right? Too soft. But you don't, what they do is once they've gotten pure gold, then they will add something into it to make it harder and make more gold go farther and that sort of thing. But what's happening? The trial is bringing to our attention that which is not good. And the metallurgist scrapes it off, and scrapes it off, and scrapes it off. So God sends difficulties to our lives. There aren't solutions, they're answers. I mean, you say, what's the difference? Well, the difference with the idea of a solution is that it goes away. If my car doesn't work, the solution is to repair it. If I can't repair it, then the problem is not solved. You see what I'm trying to say? And I think that it is a distinction truly with a difference. God sometimes enables us. What did he say to Paul? My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Now, folks, here's what we need to understand. You're always weak. I'm not picking on you. I'm always weak too. But is a trial, a difficulty brings to our attention the fact that we are weak. It becomes glaringly apparent. I want to skip 72. This one didn't make the clearance here. I can tell whether a person speaking in tongues is genuine. It's always phony. Okay? It's always phony. 72. I have been willing to maintain a lower standard of living in order to benefit God's work. Now, you folks, let me say something to you. I think every believer should be willing to do this. You know what we're going to be judged on? We're going to be judged on not what we gave, but what we kept. Not what we gave, but what we kept. Folks, I see Christians who live in this regard just like the world. Their houses are not domiciles, they're show places. Their furniture does not facilitate. It calls people to ooh and to awe. Their clothes are not simply functional, and I'm not against beauty. Man, I see some women, God bless them, Southern.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, bless their hearts. They seem to have some aversion to color. They look like something from a black and white movie. No, God gave us the ability to see colors, so we should have some colors to see, all right? That's not what I'm talking about. I don't think we should look like ragamuffins and bums and that sort of thing. Now, I look bummy sometimes, but that's not because I don't have any money. I'm going to do something messy. I don't want to wear good clothes. But their value system is the same as the world. Oh, it's like they're, as I like to say, some of them tithe and many of them don't even do that. I believe that if God's people gave even a tenth, the church would be awash in money, that we'd have to figure out. I mean, we could support everything. I mean, the mission agencies would not go begging. Christian school teachers would be well paid. Pastors would have money. Churches would look good. There would be all kinds of money. But many people think, well, I've given my tithe. That's good enough. Yeah? Who said? Who said? Did God say that? No, he did not. No, he did not. Even in the New Testament. What is it? 1 Corinthians 16:2 talks about money to be given to poor believers. It says that we are to do what we can for everybody, especially to them who are the household of faith. So, but the person with the gift of giving is even more. It's remarkable. 73. When I serve the Lord, I don't really care who gets the credit. Oh, wow. That's a hard one, isn't it? That's a hard one. How many times over the years has someone been offended because they didn't get the credit? You know what I tell the church people, and if you haven't heard it, I'm going to hear it now. Don't do it for me. First of all, if you do it for me, you don't get a reward. Don't even do it for the church. Do it for the Lord. And if you do it for the Lord, you know what happens? If somebody blows it and doesn't thank you, recognize you, stroke you, whatever, doesn't matter, because you didn't do it for them anyway. If you serve, serve for the Lord. If you teach, teach for the Lord. If you sing, sing for the Lord. If you play an instrument, play for the Lord. If you do anything, if you witness, do it for the Lord, whatever it may be, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. And that'll solve the problem. Now, that doesn't mean that the church, whatever, shouldn't recognize. But you know, sometimes we don't. Nothing intentional. Ooh, folks, you know what? One of the worst things out there is the person that thinks, well, you did that on purpose. Oh, God help us. Number 74. I would enjoy spending time with a lonely, shut-in person or someone in prison. Gift of mercy. I am attracted to non-believers because of my desire to win them to Christ. You know something, folks? There's a part of Christianity that wants to be totally separate from the world. Jesus said in Matthew 5, "Ye are the salt of the earth." The salt is useless in the salt shaker. It's useless in a container. It must be touching the world. Even when Jesus talks about the light of the world, he uses the light of the world in two senses. One, the light from a distance. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. But he also uses that light in close proximity. Neither did men put a candle under, by the way, it's really a lamp, candle under a bushel basket, but on a candlestick, or what it was a little protrusion in the wall where that you would put it up there. And the thing was the flame was very small. It was about the size that you would get with the candle. And he said, no, you don't put it under a bushel. What's the point in lighting a candle and putting under a bushel? You put it where it gives light. And that is close. We need to be salt and light, and you do that in your interactions with unbelievers. There's that horror that some believers have of pollution. I'll be defiled if I have any unsaved friends. Yeah, and you'll be useless if you don't. It doesn't mean your best friend should be an unbeliever, but you should have unsaved friends. How are they going to know? How are you going to have opportunities? Folks, let me tell you something. If I've learned anything in New York, it's that cold evangelism is extremely, underline that, put it in all caps, highlight it with a highlighter, draw arrows to it. Cold evangelism is pretty nearly useless. Pretty nearly useless. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. And it's fine to do it, and we should do it. But let's understand, its effectiveness is very, very low. What kind of evangelism works? Dealing with your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers. I know. I have knocked on tens of thousands of doors. And I've never seen anybody come to church as a result of it. Now, is that to say we should never do it? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you really want to get results, then you get results with the people you know. Far more. Far more. The verse, we'll use it in the morning message. And daily in the temple and every house they cease not to teach and preach Jesus Christ. Now, people will say, well, that's going door to door. No, it's not. I beg to differ, folks. That is not going door to door. That speaks of their enthusiasm. The temple is not a door. In every house. In every house. Now, that's a little bit of hyperbole, no doubt, all right? But what's he saying? They were so enthusiastic about the gospel that wherever they were sharing that with people. Their friends. Now, folks, you don't get... in New York, you don't get invited into strangers' homes. I've had that experience only a couple of times, and one of them was a bunch of Polish men, and they could beat me up, no doubt, if there was a problem. And they were foreigners. They didn't know you didn't invite. I guess they probably didn't know you didn't invite strangers into your house. All right. So let's find some people. Let's make some friends. Number 76, have a desire to make my home available to those in the Lord's service whenever needed. Did you know that your home can be a vehicle of evangelism? Yeah, sure can. In fact, folks, may I say to you, in early 1950s, the average person knew let's let one meaning they didn't know anything about the gospel. 10, they knew enough to be saved. the average person, the average American was about a 7. Where are they now?
The 3.
Probably even lower than that. We're dealing with pagans. We're dealing with people who have so little knowledge about the gospel. They don't know it. So if we are hospitable, if we have people over in our home, we have opportunities. 77. Others have told me I am a person of an unusual vision, and I agree, or I see it. That's not me. I have a certain, but by the way, folks, what we need to do in all of these things is to be able to separate that which is unusual from that which is usual. Well, that was great, wasn't it? All right. To the person with the gift has unusual abilities. We all have vision. You see something and you say, well, that can be better. I can take that and I can do this or whatever. Yes. That's normal. But these people can see what is not and what most people would say never could be. Now, that would create, I think, a certain measure of faith. Yeah.
So when you're saying vision, you mean when someone has vision, it means that they know for a fact that they have something, a goal to reach, and they know it's going to happen, or is it just dreaming? That's the only way I could put it, or wishing.
Well, now here, let me. You broached something. What's the difference between wishful thinking and vision? Well, I wish for many years I wished I was trim. And man, I tried sometimes I really tried hard. I really did. My wife will acknowledge that I tried. I was on pretty much a low carb diet a low fat diet for several years. And that was the stupidest thing. Hey folks, don't let the medical profession tell you how to lose weight. They don't know. They don't know. In fact, there was a fellow named Atkins who was a medical doctor. They fought him for years. If they had some humility, they would have a significant amount of egg on their face. They do not, so they are immune to that. But what wishful thinking is, I would like something. Vision is, I'm going after it. Yeah, vision is not, now, a visionary, sometimes it's hard to separate, sometimes vision is a little kooky. I know a pastor that his vision was a particular building down in Bay Ridge, and I told my wife, I said, if he gets that building, it'll kill him. It'll kill his entire ministry. It'll deep six it. Now, he didn't get it, and his ministry continues, but had he gotten it, the tail would have wagged the dog on a dinosaur scale.
Somebody who did have vision was Jim Barker with that
Fish
market,
store, yeah,
that
fish market.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
That thing looked awful.
Oh, it was. It even smelled like a fish market.
It did. It probably still does, but.
Are you talking about Pastor Jim Barker's church?
Yeah,
Carl
that was a
Rubens,
fish
Carl
market.
Rubens. Did you see it before? He
Not-
made it into a church?
Not as a fish market, but I heard that it used to be a fish market.
I saw it. It wasn't a fish market at the time. It was worse than that. It was an abandoned fish market.
Abandoned fish market.
I
Okay.
think he didn't get the building.
That's not the one
It's a different person.
that's in Long Island. This guy wanted this monstrous building on down. I could point it out to you from the expressway, and God was merciful to him. He didn't get it.
But that building Jim Barker had, it was abandoned and it was deserted. It was ugly. It was like,
It is
you
smelly
had
too.
to imagine that as a church.
Yeah, yeah. So
And he didn't have any money. right?
No, no.
He had to raise,
All right,
and he had a tent beside it where he helped. You preached in that tent, Daddy,
Yeah, I
out in
did.
the winter. My mom had to borrow my winter coat for him to preach because it was so cold.
I
While
went,
they were
I went
redoing
over
it.
there and I said, Jim, what are you letting all this cold air in for? And I went around and battened down the hatch a little bit. It was much better. He just, come on, Jim, there's no point in suffering. You don't have to. Oh, no, it didn't bother him. Everybody sat there in their overcoats and everything. They went all the way through the winter. And you know what? When you know what kind of people you attract when you have something like that? You attract other people with vision. You attract people with guts, courage, determination, and a cause to fight for. 78, when I'm in charge, things seem to run smoothly. Well, I don't have that either. Okay? But that's a really good thing. The gift of administration. 79, I have enjoyed bearing the responsibility for the success of a particular task within my church. Now, thankfully, the person doesn't have to have that gift for it to always succeed. But it's a good thing to have people like that, and then we can all, folks, just keep in mind, we can all do something in these particular areas. We just do not have unusual capabilities because we don't have the gift. I readily identify with Paul's desire for others to be single as he was.
No.
No. No. And most people don't, and that's perfectly normal. I think, well, I'm not going to say it. We have created in much of Christendom a vehicle to create single people, which I don't think is God's desire. It's man's fruity thinking. 81, when I pray, God frequently speaks to me and I recognize his voice. As long as it's not a real voice, that's okay. All right. I respond cheerfully when asked to do a job, even if it seems menial. That's servanthood. Folks, did you ever think about, we like to talk about people like D.L. Moody, and boy, I sure would like to have somebody like him make an appearance on the scene. But behind every D.L. Moody, there are thousands of little nobodies who do things that the D.L. Moody's could not function without someone doing those things. Who sets up the chairs? Who cleans? Who gives out? Who invites? Who cajoles and keeps after a person until Moody didn't know all those people. People don't come because of advertising. I'm not saying you shouldn't advertise because, you know, there are few, very, very few people. Why do they come? They come because somebody invites them. They come because somebody keeps after them. And then in some cases, they finally say, all right, I'll go. And they go there and they're miserable. And when they hear the gospel, they get even more miserable. You know, you got to get miserable. Most people have to get miserable before they get saved. Many people have to get angry before they get saved. Real quickly, we have a couple of songs in our songbook by a man who, and his name skips my mind at this moment. It'll come to me maybe. But his wife went to this ladies' Bible study. This is in the late 40s. And she was saved and he was not. Stuart Hamblin. And Stuart is so this young man came to Southern California and he was holding a tent meeting. You know the young man's name, Billy Graham. And he kept inviting his wife. His wife kept inviting him. And so finally, I guess, they just to shut her up, You know, men sometimes do that to shut up wives. He went. And man, was he mad. He was hopping mad when he heard that message. But something got a hold of him, and he went back the next night, and the next night, and the next night. He hated it, but he couldn't stop going either. And I don't know how many nights he went, but he got saved. I mean, man, he really got saved. There's no question about it. In fact, he got so saved that he lost his job as a radio personality because he wouldn't advertise, and he actually de-advertised some of the products that they sold. God needs a little people, because in the real analysis, that's all any people are. God's got no big shots. Let's pray. Lord, bless the rest of our church time. Lord, may the singing glorify you. May it lift our hearts. May our hearts be prepared for your message. May we receive it with gladness and obey it. May you be glorified in all these things. In Jesus' name.